Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another Creative Sim for the Disney Save. Today, we are finally creating Oaken and his family from Frozen. These are the guys that own Oaken's Trading Post and Sauna, which was the previous speed build here on the channel. And of course we had to create Oaken and his family to kind of go along with it. Now, I usually will save townie Creative Sim videos until the end of a world completion, but because of Oaken's popularity, and honestly, just given my schedule over the past few weeks, it worked out a lot better for me to just make him right away. So Oaken will be a townie, including his family. That's mostly due to game mechanic purposes, just because the game doesn't allow me to do like a dual lot type where I would be able to put him in Oaken's Trading Post as like a residential slash sauna. And it's really important for it to actually function as a sauna that you can go to, I feel. So rather than try to build them some kind of a residential and really squeeze them into the space of Mount Komorebi where we have so many really good ideas, I felt like it would be better to just have these guys be townies. Now, the family dynamic for Oaken's was actually up for debate quite a bit. I did create these guys over on Twitch, and we were going back and forth for a while about what we actually wanted to do, mostly because Oaken's family is shown so briefly in the first movie. There's actually like a scene where they pan over to the sauna and you look in and you can see his family. And in the sauna, it appears to be two adults, either teen and older. One of them in particular looks a bit older, and then 3 children. And so there are a lot of fan theories about what the dynamic of Oaken's family actually is, including one of the popular ones being that he is actually gay, because there is a male in the sauna who appears to be one of the oldest of the bunch, and a lot of people assume is his husband. And we don't get a lot of opportunity to represent LGBTQ in the save file because of Disney's dynamics and all of the stuff that goes along with that. So I felt like this would be a good and somewhat rare opportunity to take that jump. So we are creating the whole family today, and Oaken has his husband, Odin, and they have 3 children ranging from teen to all the way to toddler, I believe. They all have O names. That is something that was recommended to me by chat that I absolutely love, and I might get them mixed up a little bit here and there throughout the video, but I do think that they came out pretty good. I'm happy with how all of them turned out. Now, for Oaken himself, I think I initially went into this thinking that this was going to be a very easy one to do, only to quickly be shocked that we didn't have the proper beard that looks exactly like his. And we actually got a beard somewhat recently with Eco Lifestyle, but we don't get them very often, and so there's very limited choices in Cass. And the very same like cut that he has, we just don't have available in-game. So that initially took away from some of it quite a bit. But beyond that, Oaken and just Frozen in general is done in that very modern CG slash Pixar-y type of animation style. And I've expressed to you guys before that sometimes I find those types of characters more difficult to make into Sims than others. It's sometimes easier if they have something really significant about their facial structure that I can latch onto that makes them so easy to recognize and then in turn create. So for example, Carl from Up comes to mind because Carl has a very square jawline and these sort of like smaller, round, deep set eyes. So he was easy to replicate because he has just that one sort of unique feature that I can replicate that makes the sim ultimately look more like how his character is shown in the movie. But on the flip side of that, characters like Russell, and I mean for Russell in general, his character is a child, so creating child sims, you're very limited on what you can do for facial things anyway. But creating his character, he didn't have as much about him that I could very easily sort of replicate. And it becomes very difficult, I feel, to get like a great resemblance compared to if we're doing the classically animated characters. I find that I have a lot better time with that. So for Oaken, it was a bit of a struggle, and you're going to see his face go through quite a few changes as chat was sort of asking different questions and giving me their opinions on some of the things that I had done. And we kind of worked out, I feel, is the best version of what I could have done given the Sims game mechanics. One of the bigger reasons that I feel like he is so hard to capture the likeness for is because his head shape is actually very pear. So he has like a skinny, long forehead, and then right around his temples, it juts out into this big pear shape. And doing extreme facial shapes like that in The Sims are just basically non-existent. You can do some pretty crazy stuff, and there are a few mods that allow you to pull things beyond the limit of what the game actually has. But other than, I would say, like noses and chins, it's sort of hard, and the game definitely limits you. Like, you can't make these huge cheeks, and you can't do crazy jawlines. You can only do, like, I would say mid-tier for those types of things. And Oaken had like a very exaggerated looking head, so not being able to capture that in combination with not being able to find the proper beard definitely threw a bit of a challenge. But ultimately, like I said, I worked through it with chat. I do think I got to a place where I'm really happy with it. He is a townie at the end of the day, him and his family, and therefore I don't spend as much time on townies because honestly, if I did, I would never get anything done. Like, townies have to be sort of a quicker process, and that's why they are typically characters that are minor characters, have one or two lines, maybe less recognizable. Oaken was a little bit of a special one because he's such a fan favorite, but other than that, I don't generally spend this much time on townies. I think just doing it on Twitch inevitably causes me to spend more time because I end up talking a lot and then sort of fidgeting and fixing. So there's a lot of transitions that his facial features are actually going to go through. But like I said, I do think we came to one of the best versions of what we can get currently in game without CC. And honestly, he does need a good CC beard. And I definitely think that whereas for the CC version of the save, I'm not planning to do too many townies with custom content on them because the list would get insane. I do think Oaken might be an exception to that rule where we have to give him maybe like a proper beard. And even if I was to download maybe one of those mods that allows you to be more exaggerated on some of the facial stuff, that might be something to think about when it came to Oaken's character as well. But like I said, I really try to not plan to use CC for townies. I already have long lists of things that I'm going to be doing for the main characters, and so the thought of adding more characters on top of that does seem a little bit much. Oaken has this very soft look to him, a very kind face, these like droopy, sort of sad, but cutesy kind of eyes. He's got this big chunky nose and like the big puffy cheeks. And the beard, like I've mentioned over and over, it's all wrong, but it's as close to what he has in the movie as possible. And I think just even squishing up the bottom part of the face and sort of pulling it up to the top is really what helped it make him look more like his character. And thank God for chat that day because they were really helping me just fidget a little bit here and there to get things as close as possible. Now the next big struggle was the clothes. And I've said this before, but when it comes to Frozen specifically, we are talking about focusing on basically a culture. So Frozen is based after like Norwegian style culture. A lot of the clothes that they wear and the architecture of Arendelle is based after Norwegian styles. And so it obviously would be really great if we had packs that were more dedicated towards the cultures or the countries of which we are trying to replicate when it does come to these more specific types of movies. So for example, Mulan. And we do have Snowy Escape, which did add some like snow type gear, but I've found when it comes to building that some of the packs that are actually coming in a lot more handy are like Island Living because there's so many like hand carved wood intricate detailing. And for the clothing, a lot of the clothing in Frozen is very much the same with the detailing and also very winterized. So there's lots of layering. Even when Anna and Elsa are wearing dresses, they're wearing like jackets over the top and long sleeve turtlenecks underneath and boots and stockings. And it can be a little bit difficult to layer in The Sims, combined with the fact that I'm trying to stick with a style of clothing that is representative of the movie, given that we have no packs to do so. So we went through a lot of options, and ultimately we basically decided we were just going to go with some kind of a sweater variation. He does wear a sweater in the movie, I believe he also wears suspenders, so obviously putting suspenders over the top would have been a lot better, but he ended up with sort of this like cross green sweater and just regular slacks and winterized boots. And then that colorful fancy sweater that you guys saw, that one I was toying with for his everyday look because it's so fun and bright and very Oaken, but it is just maybe too far off from what we actually wanted to do. So I ended up using that for his party outfit. Don't worry, it's not his everyday wear. You can actually see the little bit of green peeking out from the bottom cast corner for his little green sweater. Moving on to his husband. Now, like I mentioned, they do show these guys briefly. You get 1 or 2 seconds, and obviously I was using that screenshot for reference when creating them, but when it came to, if Oaken is like a lesser known character, then his family is even lesser known than that. And so these types of characters are really a great opportunity for me to play around a little bit and not worry too much about likeness. I don't think anybody would see this sim and immediately recognize him as Oaken's husband. So I have leeway here. I can get away with doing basically whatever I want within reason. I obviously wanted to keep it somewhat similar to the original reference. And from what I can tell, the blonde-haired male that was shown in the sauna footage, he was just very good looking. And so that was basically all I was concerned about when creating him. I wanted him to just be a very good looking sim. And I think that we hit the mark. Chat seemed pretty happy. We were all sort of thirsting over him a little bit. It's a little hard sometimes for male sims. I'm a lot better at creating female sims when it comes to making like traditionally pretty looking people. But I also rely very heavily on custom skins when it comes to male sims, especially if I'm trying to get like very, very attractive male sims. And this was the same sort of apprehension that I had when I created Naveen way back in Willow Creek, because he is a very traditionally good looking sim. And I do struggle with making good looking male sims in The Sims 4. So I was very nervous to try to do this, especially live on stream in front of a bunch of people, but everybody seemed to be okay with it. Now, the next big thing that came up was his actual age and the dynamic that was going on there. I really hate how The Sims 4 adults, as soon as you change from a young adult to an adult, it adds lines around the mouth and lines underneath the eyes that not every adult is going to have. And I wish that they would just put them as extra skin details that I could add on to an adult sim if I felt like it was necessary, because honestly, they don't always fit very well. And I might want a sim to be a little bit older in age, but not have those super deep wrinkles to make them look so old all the time. And so we kind of toyed back and forth a little bit with whether he would be a young adult or an adult sim. And it does depend on what ages you actually believe that each sim life stage is at. And this was even debated in chat very much, because I said that for me, young adults are like fresh 18 to maybe like 25. And then adult sims are 25 plus. Whereas some people in chat were like, usually my headcanon is that adult sims are 30 plus or 35 plus. So it really is dependent. And I have made adult and young adult couples before. So it totally depends. And obviously if you didn't like one choice or the other, you could simply change it yourself. But I actually don't even remember what we ended up going with. I believe just to keep the wrinkles from his face, we might have gone with the young adult and the adult dynamic, or I might have even made Oaken a young adult. I'm not quite sure, but I know that I've used it in the past, and it really just depends on whether or not you, or whatever ages you believe sims are at in different life stages. And of course, we had to give all of them an outfit with just a towel for the sauna, and that's basically just representative of that very one scene. So all of the children, Oaken and Odin, all have the one swatch in their swimwear that is for the sauna, which would just be the towel. Now, as far as their children go, they are adopted, but one of the things that's sort of hard to implement is creating a custom sim and then having them become adopted. I'm not even really sure if there's a way to technically do it, and I explored it a little bit when I created the Up household because Carl and Ellie were going to adopt Russell for purposes of the save, and I was wondering if there was a way to actually like create a custom Russell sim and then have them actually adopt so that anything that gets linked into adoption was tied to that sim. And I couldn't find a very easy way to do it, so it might be one of those things that is a little bit more like headcanon. So these are their 3 adopted children. However, I did use genetics and I got some very interesting looking sims. The first one, and you're going to have to excuse me because I don't remember all of their names off of the top of my head. I believe this might be the only one I don't really know the name of. They were very strange for genetics. In the movie, all of the children are shown having darker hair, like this brown hair. So between Oaken and Odin and the reddish hair with the blonde hair, ending up with 3 children with darker hair, who knows? But if they are possibly adopted and maybe even all siblings together that were adopted into this family, that could easily be an explanation. But as far as genetics go, who really knows? I wasn't too worried about it. Decided we were going to use the darker hair based after the images from the movie. But as we went down the line of genetics to create younger and younger Sims, they just came out so strange looking. I have to say, for how good looking Odin is, he really doesn't make the best children with Oaken. And I've cut it out for today's video for obvious reasons. This is a create-a sim and not like a live video. But something really funny happened on stream when we got to the final child of this family. I wanted to age them up just to make sure that they looked okay when they're a little bit older. Sometimes for children and teens, it's hard to tell what they're going to look like when they are a young adult sim. And people have commented to me in the past that, for example, some of my Toy Story children, like Hannah and Andy, when they age up, they start to look a little bit crazy. And I was curious if that was going to be similar for this, even though I wasn't creating them my own. I was basically just using genetics and going with whatever the game gave me. I was a little bit curious, so I wanted to see. And for the youngest child, we aged him up, and he just looked absolutely insane. He had this crazy jawline that is basically what's hidden underneath Oaken's beard, and these huge bug eyes and this very strange nose. I did cut it out of the video because it was actually really funny, and I recommend the VOD over on Twitch if you want to go check that out, or just come hang out on Twitch because weird and funny stuff happens like that all the time. And it was so unsuspecting because the toddler that we ended up with really doesn't look all that crazy, and I ended up giving him the same hairstyle as his father Odin, but in a darker color, and I didn't really think anything of it until we aged him up, and he absolutely just looked bonkers. As far as the clothing options go for the 4 children, which I'm now just realizing is in fact 4 and not 3, I tried again to go with layered looks, things that look like they would come from Arendelle or were Norwegian and Cold War inspired, things representative of what Anna and Elsa wear, but maybe like more peasant or lower class forms of them. And then funny enough, one outfit that is available for toddlers is actually a sweater with overalls over it, which is exactly what Oaken wears, and would have been really helpful if it was available in the adult category, but of course it's not, and so we had to use it here. Recommendation again from chat that ended up working out perfectly. And that is the end of today's Create a Sim. I hope you guys enjoyed this little townie family. Let me know what you thought of them down below. Follow me over on Twitch. It is linked in my description box down below to come hang out and do some live Create a Sim and building. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.